Hello everyone and welcome back to another book review. Today I am going to be reviewing Monsters and Grotesques in Medieval Manuscripts. This is what the cover looks like. This is a rather short book that is part of the Medieval Life in Manuscripts series, and I decided to check this out to complement some other books that I have read on this topic. So, Monsters and Grotesques in Medieval Manuscripts. If you are familiar with medieval manuscripts, you've probably noticed all the little funny creatures that are drawn in the margins or in the corners or actually sometimes in the lines of the text of these manuscripts. And this book is part of a series that looks at those manuscripts, and this one particularly focused on those monsters or grotesques in the manuscripts themselves. I find these little things drawn on the edge fascinating because they kind of hint at the history, the theology, the mythology, the beliefs of the people in the times that wrote these books. So it's kind of a view and insight into the worlds that they lived in. So I find it very, very fascinating. I think this series focuses primarily on short introductory texts, which is why this book is under 100 pages and has no real division of chapters, but is still a really interesting book to read, and I do recommend. So in a book like this, whether it was introductory or not, I think an art book like this, art takes center stage. And the art is just strange and wonderful. And as we flip through it, I think I just want to show you what the art looks like. The book is set up so there's text and then there's the art all around it. And the art is really the weird and interesting. And what I mean by you can see the day-to-day life is pieces like this. So this was just provided there was a blank page in the back of, I believe, a Bible, and someone took it upon themselves to draw in different races. So this came from people that, it's called 17 Monstrous Races, and it was from a Bible, I believe, that was found in Germany. And someone just took this blank page to draw on different races that they believed existed in antiquity based on other sources like Herodotus, and I believe Pliny was another source for this. So we can see how it's an insight into the training and the life and the study of the people of the time. We have another one that has a map with all sorts of little creatures. Something I find really interesting about these art pieces is the longer you look, the more you see. And something that came out when I was doing one of my art history courses in college. I had a lot of credits to spare, so I took a lot of classes for fun. And something that came out of those classes with art history in particular was how few minutes we spend looking at these pieces of art. And these medieval illustrations, I think, really emphasize that point because the longer you look, the more you see in each of these pieces. The more little weird monsters you see, the more creatures you see. We have this one I thought was particularly fun. It was by Sir John Mandeville, who said he went all these places, although he did not. And we have all these fun illustrations. The longer you look at each of these pictures, the more you see. This is a biblical illustration. Something else pointed out in this book is that biblical references for a lot of these was very strong. There was a lot of biblical references in these. But when you have these books, like here's a full page. The longer you look at the page, the more you see. And I think that's one of the takeaways I took away from that art history course that has stuck with me more than any of the actual details or facts to learn from that course. And when I get a book like this, I just want the art to take center stage. And even though it's under 100 pages, I spent a lot of time with this book because I wanted to look at each of these pieces of art that were being discussed. There's some description in the text, what you're looking at, the source behind it, how this was likely inspired or what inspired this, what texts, maybe ancient authors inspired this, different biblical beliefs, or maybe something just from imagination. But the text just provides a little bit of background for you to look at and enjoy the art. Here's art that was based off of things that were discovered in Nero's palace near Rome. So all of these, the background is explained and just gives you something interesting to look at and enjoy if you have interest in these medieval manuscripts. Now let's discuss what I thought about this book, and this is a great, fabulous introductory book. I have read many books like this, so none of the information that was presented in here was necessarily unique, different, unfamiliar to me, but that isn't necessarily a bad thing. There's a role in books for introductory books to give you the information you need to get started, and for books that have a little bit more detail to allow you to delve into a topic deeper. And I have read, at this point, deeper dive books on these medieval manuscripts and their illustrations, their monsters, their grotesques, and I have read introductory books, and both are fabulous. But I just want to be clear that this is an introductory book. You're not going deep into the analysis of the the psychological decisions of these medieval authors or the theological background that led to these artistic. It's very high level and it's very introductory to a reader, which could be a great point for bringing this to a wide variety of audiences. For example, this would probably still be appropriate for someone in middle school because it's so accessible and open and under 100 pages. So by being introductory, it's, excuse me, it's less exclusionary by being introductory, is what I'm trying to say. So I do think it's not a bad thing, but just be aware that it is an introductory book. And if you've read other books similar to this, there may be a lot of review. It is a fantastic introduction though, and if you enjoyed this book, there's other book reviews on my channel that you may enjoy. I would recommend checking out Images in the Margin, Medieval Monsters, and Image on the Edge. These are 3 videos, and if you type those titles, again, Images in the Margin, Medieval Monsters, or Image on the Edge into my channel, you will find those book reviews. Those are other fantastic books that you can start with or that you can also read if you read this one, or if this sounds interesting and you want to read more like this. If you have read this book, please let me know your thoughts and comments on it in the comment section down below. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.